This is a Team Objection podcast for December 24th, 2020, episode 465. Happy Christmas Eve. We are not going to talk about Christmas at all this episode. If you want Christmas content, go back to last week's show where we had a combative attempt to do a weird bracket for Christmas songs. Instead, tonight we're going to talk about a few other things we have to tidy up before the end of the year. And then next week there's no show, so nothing on New Year's Eve. We'll be back January 7th, and we'll do our best of 2020 for pop culture. It's going to be different than years past.
So we're going to tidy things up. I mean, how can you tidy things up from this shit show of a year?
Well, Dave's going to have to go into this blind. I didn't tell him the topics in advance, but tidying thing up number one. Ready? Here we go. It's going to be pretty quick because we don't need to do a deep analysis. We need to lock in our Suns win totals and finishing spot predictions. Today is the day after their first game, but we're recording it the night before. That's why it's a weird sentence to put out there. But it's Tuesday night. They play tomorrow night. The first games were tonight, including the Nets beating the ever-loving shit out of the Warriors, which is good for the Suns. But it's also only one game, and I'm not going to overreact. That said, the Nets, a lot of people had them in the finals, and it's only one game, but they looked good.
We're not just going to talk about basketball, though.
Nope,
just so you know, we're going to talk about... Yeah, I saw Kevin Durant flying in for, like, a fast break dunk, and he looked fine. I had a little bit of a heart attack because I don't dislike the guy. I don't want him to get hurt, so it's like, oh, God. He was fine.
It's interesting, though, how different he looks from, like, DeMarcus Cousins. Now, Cousins has had 2 catastrophic injuries, and he's a big man, so it's not the same. But when Cousins is moving around, and he looks pretty good for the Rockets, it doesn't look the same. Durant looks like Durant.
Yeah.
Which is scary. And I saw some article. It's like, is there anything we can do to avoid a Nets-Lakers final? And at the moment, no, it doesn't look like it. But we'll see.
We'll see. It's a long season. It's only one night. Again, not going to overreact. But I think people forgot how good he is. It was only a year plus. And somehow they forgot that he was in the conversation as, if not the best player in the league before he was hurt.
Yeah.
He's very good. So anyways, we have a 72-game season coming up. We kind of danced around some projections. We've now seen the final preseason games. The Suns went 0-4 in the preseason, whatever that's worth. With that information at our disposal and the finality of the regular season now starting, what's the final number you guys want to lock in and or a spot in the Western Conference?
Well, clearly we're going 70-2 because we re-signed Frank Kaminsky, the best signing we could have possibly did to bring him back. So clearly that's it.
I actually really like that signing.
For
what it is. Sure. For the 14th man on the roster, I love bringing back somebody who knows the system and was a popular guy in the locker room, as opposed to what McDonough did over and over again, which was, this young guy was a draft pick that was high at one point. Let's kick the tires on him and see if maybe we'll be the team that figures it out. And we never did.
We couldn't figure out their own offense.
Jimmer Fredette is the one that I think of.
And Beasley, and any other like reclamation, Wesley Johnson, other reclamation projects that I'm sure even we kind of tried to be like, oh yeah, maybe at the time. No, fuck that. Bringing a guy who's good for the locker room and can play 10 minutes in a spot role if somebody gets hurt. Great. Anyways, sorry. Digression on Frank Kaminsky.
Yes, sorry.
I mean, technically, we went at least 1-4. I feel like we were up by a ton, and then we put in all our bench scrubs in minutes they would never get. But I also don't know how much the preseason really matters. I think it matters a little bit. I think clearly we're out of tune a little bit.
I don't know. We pulled it together. I can't remember if it was the last game or the second to last game where that one you said where we put in our bench scrubs and they blew the lead for it against the Lakers. Like, we were up by a good 12-15 in the third quarter with a great third quarter run that our starters went on.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. But that second unit is out of sorts.
And the Lakers,
part of that is injuries.
The Lakers closed that gap because Anthony Davis went absolutely nuclear from 3 when he was still playing in the third quarter. So, I mean, there's a lot of weird variance in there. I don't know how much we read into it. Am I concerned by it? Not really, especially because I think the most glaring weakness in the minutes that rotation players played was backup playmaking. And who was missing in all those preseason games? Dario Saric, who's supposed to be like the anchor of the backup unit. Now, I'm not saying Saric is the difference between a 50-win season and a 25-win season, but I think it'll help make a difference in how out of sorts it looked.
And I mean, I don't think we played with a full roster, a full healthy roster the entire preseason. So
no, and who knows? I mean, this season there's always injuries, right? Everybody goes through injuries at some point, and now COVID is a big question mark. How often will any team have its full roster this year? Who knows? So we can't really use that as an excuse. But as far as things looking a little out of sorts, I think that's the main reason why. So I'll go first. I don't care. I usually go last in these things. I had said 42 last time, 2 weeks ago. I'm backing off of that a bit. I'm going to lock in only 40. I'm going to say 40 and 32. I like 8 games over 500 in the shortened season. I think that's good enough for 5th in the West. And not just because they kicked our ass twice do I think that Utah, I'm going to pick them ahead of us to finish 4th, but also because I think continuity matters. I said this to Shaun off air, but they're having so little turnover I think is going to be really valuable in a volatile season like this one. And I think Bogdanovich was more important to them than we/anyone realized. He's scored 20 points a game the last 2 years. I'm not saying he's a world beater, but like that's a valuable both playmaker and scorer for them that they didn't have. So to me, the Gobert thing can't blow up on them now because he's signed. You can argue about the merits of it, but I don't think they had a choice. So I don't see us being better than them. So I'm going to pick us 5th, 40 wins. It's probably still on the optimistic side. I think most panelists nationwide have them more in the 7 seed range. But some predictions have had them higher. Like 538 had the Suns at 42 wins. So I'm going to say 40, 5th place, locking it in.
Yep. I don't even need to speak because literally you stole just about everything I was going to say, Chris.
Excellent.
I was going to pick 40 and 32, 5th place. I think I saw the high end of predictions. Kevin O'Connor, who seems to be the biggest Suns fan in media, basically, wrote us at 4th in the West, I think, with only the 2 LAs and the Mavericks ahead of us. So that's interesting. But yeah, 40 and 32. I think we're going to be a lot better, obviously, than last year. Struggle with some of the top teams, but be able to beat the bottom teams with some depth. But yeah, I think that's exactly where we are.
Oh, this is easy for me. I'm going to go 41, and my odds for winning now just jumped up astronomically because you both went with the same guess. So I was going to go 42. I don't need to now. I can just say 41 and be fine.
All right.
So if Chris and I, if we go under 40, Chris and I win. If we go over 40, you win. Basically.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Cool. Well, I guess I hope you win, Shaun.
I guess we both have to buy Shaun dinner. I don't know how that works either. But it's not my fault. I locked mine in first. I didn't cause this.
Yeah.
I mean, we split dinner.
I thought Dave was going to go like 38, 39, so.
No, I'm not that pessimistic. Come on.
I mean, it's one game.
I'd be really happy. I mean, I'd be extremely satisfied with 42, 43 wins. I think that'd be a really good season for us.
I think it's fair to question how good Utah is, especially when it comes playoff time, because they haven't gotten it done and the roster's about the same. I don't think there's any question they are good. So 2 losses to Utah and 2 losses to the Lakers in the preseason. I'm like, eventually we get to play like the Timberwolves and the Bulls. And, it's not going to be like this every single game. Now, the West is a murderer's row, and it has been for a long time. And that's why I can't go higher than 5th, because Portland could be a top 4 team. I think it's Utah and Denver are the next 2 best ones, but Portland could be up there. Dallas could be up there if Doncic plays out of his mind. He could be MVP this year. I hope he's not for a variety of reasons, but that's possible. Yep. Golden State, tonight withstanding, could be up there maybe if Steph goes nuclear. So I think 5th is still pretty optimistic if I'm being honest, but I'm going to say it anyways. Okay, that's topic 1. We've tidied it up. It's locked in. We'll see how the season goes. I'm excited. I hope I'm not going to be unexcited about 3 weeks from now because it's been a catastrophe. I really do.
If we're like 2 and 12 in a couple weeks, I'm just going to be like,
Topic 2 will be a quick one. Topic 3 will be a quick one. And then we'll have topic 4, and we'll see if we have time for Shaun's after that. I just wanted to follow up and tell you that after we talked about the misnomers in sayings and people not having common idioms correct, I heard 2 more in the same week. Haven't had a chance to bring them up since then. We've had other topics. But one was that someone was going to rage hell instead of raise hell. And I was like, okay, unlike a couple of your examples, at least that one still kind of makes sense. Like in context, it's wrong, but it's still like, yeah.
You're going to
rage
a place called Rage Hell.
Yeah.
I'm going to rage like hell, I guess, maybe.
So that's wrong, but it's like, that's close enough where you get the meaning and you're like, okay, I can see how you got that one wrong. And then the one I heard twice in the span of like a week and a half from 2 different people was squashed instead of quashed. Which is, again, something that makes sense because quashed is a much less known word. But still, I mean, the idea that somebody was like, yeah, I heard about something being squashed. And you're like, well, that doesn't really mean, canceled. But, again, okay, they had a plan and somebody went, and it's gone. Okay, sure.
God, there's one, it's on my tongue. I'm not going to be able to think of it. But it was kind of like that where it's not the word, but it's kind of the word, but it's wrong, but you can see why they did it.
Mm-hmm.
It's super interesting.
Yeah, okay, I can get behind the squashed one. The more I was initially like, no, and then afterward I'm thinking, okay, if you just misheard it, I guess that's the most common thing. You just never heard it properly and then just ran with it.
And nobody really says quashed.
Yeah.
Now, nobody really says squashed in that context either, because that means they were aware of the right meaning, but they didn't actually know the word for it. But still, those came up in quick succession, and I was like, I'm going to bring those up when the time comes.
And I
hear your dreams get squashed a lot, and I wonder if enough people have just kind of started saying squash, and now it's a thing.
There's another one that I've heard that just came to mind that people mess up, and initially it sounds like, okay, I see how you get it wrong. Then you realize the meaning is completely different when you screw this one up. When you say a blessing in the skies instead of a blessing
don't tell
in
me
the
someone
skies.
says that.
That's
Please.
a good one.
That's one of the worst ones I've ever heard.
I mean, if initially you're just thinking, oh, you misheard it. You thought it was a blessing in the skies. Like, yeah, okay, a blessing up there in the skies. Except for the fact that it completely changes the meaning of what you're trying to say, and it's stupid.
Does it, though?
I mean, a blessing in disguise means you didn't really expect it to be a blessing. A blessing in the skies is like, thank you. I'm glad this came down to me.
But, Jesus came down from the skies to Earth in human form, which was sort of a disguise for him. And
Stupid.
he made the world a better place until his crucifixion and death, and then he came back and helped again. So it really is a blessing from the skies. It makes a lot of sense because all things come from God.
You aren't flexible enough to stretch this hard.
I'm really trying, but I'm not. I'm getting older, and I was never really flexible to begin with.
In the skies bothers me so much, and it's one of the ones where you can see why. Like you already said, but I don't even care. It's so bad.
It's so wrong. In so
Blessing
many ways.
in the skies. That's hilarious to me. It really is.
That's one of those things that's annoying, right? Because you can trace the etymology. You can be like, oh, I see.
Yeah.
Like that came from this, but it doesn't make it any better.
You're still so wrong in so many ways.
Topic number 3 is another quick one. I just wanted to bring it up because we haven't mentioned it on the show. And Dave, don't roll your eyes. We're going to talk about Smash Brothers for 2 seconds, but you're familiar with this topic. They had a really cool trailer for Sephiroth. In fact, Smash's trailers have been on point for pretty much all their character introductions. They do a really good job of hyping it up. Do you know how many people I saw that were talking about how they didn't know who Sephiroth was?
I feel old now.
And it's funny because they just put out a Minecraft character. Well, now, granted, Minecraft's been around for a while, but that I think you could say is like a Zoomer type character. And this is more of like a Boomer type character because it's for older people, right? And yet, the thing I'm offended by is not people not knowing, which is a little silly if you're into video games, but the people who were so offensively proud about not knowing is my problem. So I have a hot take. See, I'm tying in the other segment.
There you go.
All those people can fuck off. You don't have to know who Sephiroth is. I think you probably should if you have any cursory interest in video games because it's not like an obscure character. It was a pivotal game in the West and it brought RPGs to this country. You don't have to know him, though. You just don't have to not know him and then be loud about not knowing him. It's not a point of pride. It doesn't make you seem cool or sexy or smart. You're just being an obnoxious idiot. Read up on him or don't talk. It's that simple. Or keep that to yourself. I'm not saying everybody has to know. Just if you don't know, and this is true of a lot of other walks of life, don't shout out that you don't know something. A lack of knowledge is not a plus, as much as it seems like it is sometimes these days.
I feel like that spawned from people who didn't watch a popular TV show or a movie or something like that. There's this crowd that's like, I never watched a single episode of Lost. Ha! Or that type of thing. Like, I'm not going to buy into the cool stuff that everyone does because I'm so cool on top of that. When it's not even knowledge of it, I don't understand that in the least. I don't watch all popular TV shows. I haven't watched a lot of Game of Thrones or Lost or any, super popular TV shows like that. But I at least know about them, and I don't actively shun them.
Yeah, Chris, you told us you haven't watched Harry Potter, but you don't exactly wear it as a badge of honor.
No. I'll mention it when it comes up. But I still also know, I know who Hermione is. I know, I've seen pictures and I've watched a part of one of the movies, so I can be like, oh yeah, Hermione, sure. Like, Ron Weasley, that's a name from Harry Potter. Yeah, I know. I don't know. It's not even a matter of, do you know Sephiroth's deep lore? Do you understand the connection with Genova and what he did in the game? I don't even care about that. Just I don't even know who the hell that is. Well, then why are you talking?
I even remember right after the 6th book came out, you hadn't read it, but I remember you just going around yelling, "Snape killed Dumbledore!"
Yeah, that was a internet meme at the time.
Exactly.
Somebody drove by a line that was waiting in the store, like outside of a bookstore, to get the book the day it released, and instead that was what happened to them, and you could hear somebody in the background go, "No, you bitch!" And while sad, it was pretty funny. Like, I would be devastated if it happened to me, but I have to admit, just because of how random it was and the high-pitched voice, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
That's like a lukewarm take, though, because that, like, yeah, of course. I hate it when people do that. Now, what we're going to run into in this segment is, I think that might happen a lot, where maybe with the common folk, it is sort of a hot take, but in this group, it's,
Right.
yeah, I'm gonna have a hot take at some point where, like, I need to think about how to phrase this so that it's the hottest take it can be. But, like, I'm not all about, like, the battle royale, the multiplayer, like, all that stuff. I'm over it. I think it's like killing the industry, except it's not, and I know that. But you all don't really do a lot of multiplayer either. You do a little bit of Tetris. You do a little bit of Mario. That's about the extent of, like, our battle royale.
And Fall Guys.
So you guys are going to be like, I guess that's sort of a hot take, but we don't really do it either. So
Is this the first Smash Brothers? The second? Is this the second one on the Switch, right?
It's the first one on the Switch, but it's somewhat close to the one that was on the Wii U. It just has all the old characters and then a bunch of new stuff.
No, you idiot. It's the only one on the Switch.
I was gonna ask if this is the first time Smash Brothers has come out, like the second version on one system, but never mind. The Wii U fucks up everything as usual. Got it.
Yeah, the footnote of history that is the Wii U. And to be fair, I didn't really think it was that hot of a take. I kind of just wanted to use the line.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it keeps the pattern. Yeah, every system has had one.
Mm-hmm.
I would also start this off by saying I have a hot take, but I don't, because everybody's had this same take. But topic 4, and Dave, even I'm not sure how familiar you are with this, but Cyberpunk, we've alluded to it a couple times on past episodes. I think we had to spend at least a few minutes talking about it. It seems like a shame not to, because what a disaster this has been, and yet not exactly a unique disaster. I think we've seen that there are some people that are forgetting their video game history, not just with Sephiroth, but now this, where they're like, this is the worst release I've ever seen. And it's like, well, Fallout 76, Fallout 4 actually had a pretty nightmarish release. Witcher 3 had its share of problems, although they fixed all of them and made it one of the best games ever. And let's also not forget about Superman 64, the Atari ET game that almost torpedoed the entire industry. Like, it's bad, but it's not the worst thing ever.
Yeah, my hot take would have been, I think we all need to calm down when it comes to Cyberpunk. That would be the hot take, because everybody is so, they're a terrible company, which, they made some mistakes, sure, but, like, this is the worst release of all time. We want refunds. I saw an article about a guy, I'm sure it's just anecdotal, but wanted a refund and then was shocked when they gave it to him, but then took the game back. He was like, what the fuck? You can't take the game? They're like, well, that's what the refund is. You don't get to just get the game for free.
Presumably he's the type of person. He's the type of person you saw in the restaurant industry who ate the whole meal and then demanded like another meal.
Oh yeah.
It was too salty. I ate it all, but I didn't like it.
And you're not supposed to fight with those people, but I was like, but you ate the whole thing. And he was like, yeah, but it was over salty. It was ruined. I was like, well, you could have stopped, right? But you ate all of it. You could have stopped at any time and returned it. We would have done that. But now you've eaten all of it. It's hard for me.
Can you imagine the chutzpah it takes to do that and then get a to-go box? Like, eat the whole thing, demand another one, not have enough room to eat it because you ate the other one, and then be like, I'll take this to go.
And then they were like, well, I mean, if you can't help me, I'm never going to... It was like weird because it was oddly cordial, but we were both being so passive aggressive. And they're like, I'm never going to come back here unless you can work with me on this. I'm like, well, if you're only going to come here and eat the food and not pay for it and want a refund, I don't know that it matters if you don't come or not. And
you don't.
It was fun times. But
so for our audience out there that may be uninformed of what has caused this to be so bad, can we get a quick rundown of that?
Holy smokes!
I can try like a 1-minute version.
Yeah, I can fill in the gaps.
Sure, you'll know more about this than I will, probably, to be honest. It's a big time open world game, extremely ambitious, and Project Red's one of those studios that could probably pull off a lot of those ambitions. It's been in development since I think 2013. So it was announced right around when this generation, well, the past gen, I guess now, the PS4 generation was just getting its legs. And then it kind of got stuck in development hell for a while. And then in the last couple of years, it started to ramp up. Got delayed 3 times. Is that right? 4?
Yeah.
I've got it for years. I mean, I remember hearing about it like 3 years ago at least.
Yeah. So there is a contingency of people that are unreasonable about all of this, as Shaun alluded to. The one sticking point for me is they didn't send out advanced copies of the current gen, aka PS4, Xbox Series X, whatever you call the Xbox One, excuse me. They didn't send out advanced copies of those. So the only reason I would actually excoriate Project Red is if they knew what a nightmare they were in for, and that's why they withheld review copies. If there was another reason for it, I have a lot less of a soapbox to stand on.
I think you're right, actually. And my ire is more towards, and I guess it is still CD Projekt Red, but it's more towards their like CEO management branch than like the dev branch.
Yes.
The management branch is doing stuff that the devs didn't even know about. Like making promises they couldn't keep. So, Dave, the full history is like everything small and big that could go wrong went wrong. They made a bunch of announcements for features in the game. Later, they were like, oh, sorry, we overpromised, which is not that big of a deal, except maybe that's why don't be so transparent early on.
Mm-hmm.
Wall running was the feature. And then you had Crunch. They were notoriously anti-Crunch. And then they became totally Crunch. When it came down to brass tacks, they had some strange transgender, like edgy promotions that I'm on the fence about because they're in game and they're supposed to be exploitive because that's what these corporations in the game world fiction do. But it still wasn't a great look. People got mad that you can edit gender. You can you can make a female character and give them a penis, and you can edit the penis.
There's sliders for it.
But then there's like no non-binary options. You still are kind of stuck with a base female and male. So they're like, you kind of did transgender representation, but you kind of didn't. And then the game released, and it was just absolutely full of bugs. They promised refunds, then they couldn't deliver on the refunds, but now they kind of can. It was just, I mean, it really is a disaster, but it's also not the end of the line for them. People have short memories. They're going to get all these patches. It's going to be fine.
What this is teaching me, and thank you for filling in the audience on that. I really do appreciate
Yeah, no problem.
No,
Our audience is pretty uneducated.
Yeah. So what this is teaching the audience, I think, is to ensure not to buy a game on release day. Just wait a bit. I know you want to be cool and be like in on it, but man, just wait.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I had the same thing. Is like I'm waiting because I wanted to play it on the Series X, and I just got lucky because it doesn't even run on the Xbox One, and even with the Series X, it's better to just wait and let them patch it.
Mm-hmm.
The litany of bad takes on this, that would be the hot take of our own, is once again telling dumb people to screw off, which is not really a hot take. But the ones that are like, there's these things that they're complaining about, people who, they were against the delays. The people wanted the game to come out when it did, and they delayed it, and they delayed it, and they delayed it. And then they released it, and it was still a mess, so people were upset about that. And it's like, well, you can't have it both ways. Either they had to delay it, or they release it when it's not ready. And it's like, yes, but who promised those release dates? We didn't conjure those out of nowhere.
I know they're a company, and a company needs to make money, and they split things into fiscal years and quarters and all of that. The game, with all the refunds and all the bugs and a lot of bad hype, sold 13 million copies in 10 days. Had you just waited, had you just delayed it, and you know what? And I know it was crunch, and that was the whole thing. So what they did, Dave, they right now they're saying we are going to patch it. It's just going to take a while because we've given our team a holiday. They've earned it. Thank God it's not like the game released, but now we need to crunch them again to fix it. They should have just done a holiday and been like, we're delaying it. We're still going to stop the crunch. If it comes out next year, that would have been fine. That would have been fine. They sold enough copies. They probably would have even done better. I know it's a little bit where now it's like hindsight is 2020. It's just a shame. I think they made every wrong decision you could make pretty much.
And like you said, most of those were out of the development team's hands. The ones actually making the game, a lot of it was marketing or the higher ups that put them into this corner. But Dave, for context, the last delay was from November into this month.
Yeah.
And it was after they had a post on social media that said the game was gold, aka done and ready to ship to retailers. That's the one I think that was especially like the knife, even though it was only a few weeks compared to, like, I think it was supposed to come out in February originally, and then it got booted into summer and then the fall. So it wasn't that long of a delay, but the fact that it happened again after they said, and people even asked that social media account. Now again, we all have worked with corporations now. We know brand managers will sometimes go off on social media with things they're not authorized to say or shouldn't say, right? But they had people in the responses to the post that said it went gold going, yeah, absolutely. Like, take those days off. This game is coming. And then it didn't. And then for half the people who wanted to play it on, the older systems, it was a nightmare.
And I just don't get, if I had a boss and I had to work up whatever I needed to tell the boss, I know we really want this project done, I'm going to need a delay. If I needed 3 weeks of a delay, I would not then ask for a day extra. You know what if I'm going to delay it for the time that you need. Don't go in November when you do the ungodly thing of making a delay after it's already gone gold, and then only give yourself another month. At that point, take a little bit extra time.
Yeah, take a few extra,
They probably needed it. They probably needed at least 2 to 3 more months when they delayed it in November.
And it just wouldn't have worked out. Then you, at that point, delay it for another year because you want to get that Christmas sale type of thing.
Maybe that was it. Maybe they really wanted this holiday season. In which case, I'm almost like, you know what, just delay it till next holiday season almost. Well, when clearly, I mean, because everybody was like, it was made for this gen was a lot of the thinking. So, I mean, of course, there's some delay because, they're probably optimizing it for the next gen. The next gen is fine. It was the old gen that's all fucked up. And PC, it runs great.
Maybe they wanted it on this gen because of the idea of what has come out this year of note. And this could be like win Game of the Year awards by default almost.
Except it's too late to do that. This year. Like the Game Awards already happened before the game came out. If they had met the November window, they might have actually done that. They would have been that Last of Us 2 whatever conversation. And instead, they came out too late to hit that window. They still met the holiday sales one. And as Shaun said, they sold like gangbusters. There's clearly a ton of interest in the game. And the next-gen ones were great. For them, I mean, there's still some things they didn't deliver on as far as like promises. But beyond that, a lot of people are enjoying their time with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also forming a hot take that I will say at some time about like separating and whether or not you should like an entity from their product. So a lot of times an easy one would be like an actor from the TV show. Dave, for example, are you never allowed to go watch Baby Driver again because of Kevin Spacey? I think that's a debate. But my point is, Cyberpunk is the game I'm still right now looking the most forward to playing. And I know the company kind of sucks and there's a bunch of idiot marketers and they had all these problems with bugs, but I'm so looking forward to when they patch everything and I can play the damn thing. So, yeah.
It'll be a fun conversation because I'm a wrestling fan who used to think Chris Benoit was his favorite.
Right.
And
yes,
he killed his family.
So now when you go back and you're
tough.
like, you pull out the VHS of the Chris Benoit holiday special, that could be...
It's not the best. So do you separate that? Can you? Does it ruin the work for you? It could be a whole discussion for another time.
Yeah. Because I think we're done.
Pretty much, yeah.
We didn't even get to my thing, which, you know what, is fine, actually. It's probably better off, because I know Dave watches The Mandalorian as well.
I haven't seen this season yet.
That's really awkward. That's like if I'm the teacher and I'm like, I throw something to you because you're the A student, because I know you read the assigned homework. All these other schlebs didn't read, but I know you did. So, Dave, please let us know what was in Chapter 3. And you're like...
my dog ate my book.
I've been, honestly, I was going to start watching it when it came out, and then I was like, maybe I'll just wait till it's all out and just catch it like at once.
Well, this is perfect. We have no show next week, so 2 weeks from now, I have to imagine Mandalorian is going to come up among the best pop culture of the year. So by that point, that's your homework assignment. Watch the current season because it is over now, and you can catch up, and then Shaun can talk to you about it.
The progression of the season, Dave, is like the first 3 episodes are like you light a lighter, and there's a little bit of flame. And then like episode probably, I don't know, 4 or 5, it gets a little bit bigger. And then by the end, it's like a nuclear explosion, pretty much.
All right.
It really ramps up.
Alrighty, well, that's the end of the episode and the end of episodes in 2020. I would talk about what a year it's been, but fuck that. Instead, I'll just tell you that we appreciate you watching. We hope you have a good holidays, whatever that looks like this year. I'm sure it's going to be some lesser version of it to some extent, given COVID restrictions and everything else. But we'll be taking off next week, although I think videos will still be on the YouTube channel. We will be back, as mentioned before, I think it's the 7th. Yes, January 7th, we'll do our best of 2020. And then regular service will resume from there. In between episodes, you can find us at our website, objectionnetwork.com, or on youtube.com/objectionnetwork for new videos that I think will still continue 7 days a week. See you next time.